Welcome to the Rock Guitar Confidential Podcast with Ryan and Scott. Today's episode, Ryan and I talk about the vagaries of being a guitar teacher and the things you must overcome, and we discuss the new Best of All Worlds tour by Sammy Hagar and company. Satriani is going to play Eddie. It's really awesome. All that and more on this episode of Rock Guitar Confidential. Check it out. I don't know, what is it, like 2% of people get resurrected and go on a murder spree? I think, what's the current statistics? You're more up to date on this than me. So.
Well, I hope the statistics go up.
5% get resurrected by some kind of supernatural force and start murdering.
Well, yeah, you know, as you said, if Eddie Van Halen did that, that would be rad.
They'd be weird. They'd be like, oh my God, dude, it's Eddie Van Halen. They're running up with his guitars. Sign this, please. He starts just whacking them with a machine gun.
Oh, okay. Remember Slumber Party Massacre?
I do not remember that, shockingly.
Dude, what?
I don't think I've ever seen. You know me. I run the other direction when there's
Oh, man. Okay, so
I'm guessing it's a massacre that occurs at a slumber party, right?
Correct.
Oh my God, they gave it away in the name.
Dude, the antagonist has his murder weapon, and I encourage everyone to look this up. He has a murder weapon that it's an electric guitar, but instead of a headstock, it has a spinning drill for murdering. It's really great.
I'm sure Fernandez Guitars was happy to be part of that, right?
Oh, you know what? You mentioned Fernandez Guitars. I hear they just went bankrupt.
Oh, I didn't even know Fernandez Guitars was still around. I thought they just only did the Sustainer. I thought that's the business they were in now.
No, well, okay. Fernandez is also the same company that made Bernie Guitars.
Oh, okay.
Right. So for those who don't know, a Bernie is a Les Paul that you could buy in Japan. Mm-hmm. It's like if your Les Paul were built well.
Okay.
Right.
So it's a fictional thing. It's just in a platonic form.
But yeah, so it doesn't say Gibson on the headstock. It says Bernie.
I thought it was for sure like the Bernie Sanders signature axe.
Dude, if he had leaned into that in his last campaign, that would have been so rad.
It's a Bernie Sanders signature axe.
But you know what? It's a copyright infringement on an American manufacturer. So Bernie Sanders probably wouldn't. It'd be a clash of messages there.
That's true. Yeah. He doesn't have a Floyd in that thing. That's why I lost faith in Bernie, man. There's no Floyd. It's not a 24 fret. There's not a double cut.
That's what swayed you?
That he doesn't have any right to talk about anything now. If he doesn't have that, it's not like a compound radius with big frets. Come on, dude.
Right. I'm voting for compound radius. Come on, Bernie,
get it together, man. Where are your priorities?
Yeah, where's the double locking tremolo candidate?
Yeah, exactly right.
Yes.
That's the person who has all the tools. They're always in tune. That's for sure.
That's right. They care about being in tune.
Exactly.
And that's right.
You know what our audience doesn't care about is political talk.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully this is ridiculous enough to not put people on any side. But.
So, hey guys, real quick, welcome to the Rock Guitar Confidential Podcast with Ryan and Scott. It's so good to have you here. Thank you for tuning in. Yeah, well,
thank you for smashing that like button.
Yeah, or I guess
subscribe button.
Download to a podcast, right?
Yeah. Well, anyway, so
we've just been making tapes and just planting them around town and hoping people find them,
and then figuring out how to use them if they're tapes.
Exactly right.
They're just like, what is this?
I guess I just throw it in the water. What is it we do?
Yeah, right. Grandpa, left something in the front yard. Yeah.
All right. So today's topic is going to be an interesting kind of.
It's going to be a few topics. I think.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the first one that we want to talk about is kind of do a little short teacher talk, talking about some. The vagaries of how challenging it is to teach sometimes and things that are going to be helpful to you if you're learning guitar yourself. The second thing is I'm going to talk about, at least we have planned, because this could go any which way. We know
it really could. Well, so yes, we're all full of stuff to talk about after a short hiatus.
Exactly. So. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the new Sammy Hagar Best of All Worlds tour with Joe Satriani taking the place of Eddie Van Halen, and some of the hubbub around, is it good, is it bad, is it okay that someone else is playing those Van Halen parts even though he's dead? So we'll go into that whole thing too. So let's talk about the teaching part of this first. Now you had like an anecdote you need to talk about.
Oh well, so just keeping my YouTube feed keeps me engaged.
Okay.
But so I don't know if this is a Beato thing. Now people are like reacting to reaction videos, right?
True.
But so this was a different person, but I guess the question to whoever was, how many of your students only play when they're at their guitar lesson? What percentage?
There's a good chunk. I would say probably mid 30%. I would say 35, 38%, something like that. They only practice when they're there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, which isn't really. I mean, I guess it kind of becomes practice.
Yeah, essentially that's what you have to do as a teacher in that scenario.
You have to practice with them.
Yeah, let's go through this together, and might be the only time you're playing this whole time. So, and then that's shockingly, it takes a very long time to make any progress doing that.
Yes.
I mean, who would have seen that coming? I mean, it's
yes. Well, I remember I had an award for the. I'll let me make up a name for the students.
No name names. That'd be not cool.
So Jebediah Gitarrenfeld Minskin.
Yes.
Jebediah Gitarrenfeld Minskin. The Jebediah Gitarrenfeld Minskin Award. It was early in my teaching career, and this is, good kid, good adult now, I'm sure.
Maybe not. He could be.
Or could be
yeah,
it's a gamble,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
It's always a gamble.
Probably slightly less than 50% chance he actually is a good person.
Well, I remember helping him install that drill onto the headstock of his guitar back in the
it was
day.
very inspired by, was it Summertime Slumber Party Massacre? or whatever it was?
So good kid. So good kid.
Yeah.
He's out there shredding campers in the woods. I hope.
With his drill attached to his guitar headstock.
I mean, it was a BC Rich. It had to be,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I'd be disappointed if it weren't.
Yeah, have to go like a Warlock or something.
But it was basically for like the $10,000 G chord.
Yes. Oh my God. So the $10,000 G chord is basically someone who never, ever practices, but also never quits. So it's like you're there for a couple years, and all you've earned for that time is a G chord.
Well, I mean, this is more than a couple years. I was going to say like half a dozen years.
Yeah. I mean, that's terrible. That happens. What I find is it's more like. Mm-hmm. My scenario with that is I have a similar thing with a certain group of students, and they tend to it's almost like I imagine like an Etch-a-Sketch. Like we'll draw this whole beautiful thing, and then as soon as I try and show them another thing, it's like someone shakes the Etch-a-Sketch, and then it all goes away, and they only knew the new thing we just did. And then I show them the new thing, and then the Etch-a-Sketch gets shaken again, and they know the new thing.
Well, so now,
but nothing never accumulates over time. It's always like
well,
the
and
new
now
thing is.
To piggyback on that, now it is true that anybody needs to be shown something at least 5 times before they internalize it, like on average.
Yeah, but that's partially going to be a situation where you learn it, and then I explain to you how to practice it, and you have to go and do that, and then that will happen way faster if you do it that way. If you have to go through it 5 times, so multiply that times them not practicing for 5 weeks straight. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, like if you didn't pick up your guitar like at all.
Yeah.
Oh God, yeah, no, absolutely. I'm talking about someone who's actively So we'll pick a topic. So like triads and key signatures, 2 topics, but associated topics, right? Like I fully accept and understand that nobody's going to fully get it the first time I explain it.
You kind of expect that, right?
Right, and that is okay, right? You could go home and do everything I told you to do, and still have questions, and it's still kind of abstract. Because, the problem with learning guitar for most people is that they, learn based on, like, chord diagrams and tabs.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people do, yeah.
I mean, that's how modern guitar players learn, right? Diagrams and tabs, right? That's no discussion. You're not thinking about notes. You're not thinking about the relationship between notes. You're not really, you're maybe kind of thinking about rhythm, I hope, but
well, if you're taking lessons from me, you definitely are.
Well, no, I know.
That is not an option. You have to.
Same here, but I'm talking about like the entire world of people learning guitar, right?
Unfortunately, you and I can't be everywhere.
No, we can't. And so, hopefully we'll have clones at some point.
I'm thinking more like a Santa Claus situation where somehow I can visit billions of people in one day or something like that.
Hey, I'm looking forward to Podbot.
Podbot? What's that?
I thought you were going to go build an Android.
Oh, yeah, I'm definitely doing that. That's me awesome. But, I mean, that's...
Yeah.
I don't know that would be... Even that would only help like 1 or 2 people at a time. We need to have, thousands just littering.
So you can build a robot at Disneyland, huh?
Yes, you can. Yeah.
All right, so then why aren't you building us a robot, dude? We have a little helper up here to work with the podcast and to
I'm far more interested in a Jedi's weapon than I am a robot.
Ah, bruh. Okay, but see, here's the problem: is that your Jedi's weapon, it's been nerfed by Disney, so it's actually not good for killing anything.
No, it's just good for keeping justice and peace in the galaxy.
But what, with just like some strongly chosen words?
Nah,
what?
It's an elegant weapon of a more civilized time.
I will take my Aliens Colonial Marines pulse rifle anytime.
Fair enough. The good news is
good luck with the lightsaber.
Aren't the only 2 choices. The good news is that
and my herd of acid-blooded xenomorphs.
Sound like my chances with the lightsaber against the xenomorphs. I definitely do.
No, dude, xenomorphs versus Jedi. Jedis are done.
Nah, they could literally just throw them all out the space cruiser, just like grab them and throw them out the window.
No way.
They don't lay a finger on them, dude. Come on.
Well, but they like maybe one or two, but if it's a whole horde, they're done.
Well, I mean, if they have more than one Jedi and they have lightsabers and the Force, I like their chances. You know what I mean?
Although their lightsabers wouldn't actually like dismember the aliens because they've been nerfed by Disney, right? so the Jedi.
I like to point out that Anakin and Luke both have their hands just cut off. You know
that was pre-Disney.
No, well, I guess technically pre-Disney.
Yep.
Yeah,
dude. I may rip on Star Wars, but I know my stuff.
Wait a minute. Kylo Ren got stabbed through the chest with a lightsaber.
He did not get dismembered, though.
No, well, I mean,
that's stabbed through the chest to make it as child-friendly as possible because there's no dismemberment.
There's nothing more child-friendly than getting stabbed in the chest.
I'm telling you.
I remember watching that episode of Thomas the Tank Engine when Thomas impaled.
Man, Edward. When we grew up, even our toys got dismembered. Like, remember ripping the cassette out of Teddy Ruxpin's back? Right?
You know what I remember being blown away by? And this was like, I was already an adult when this, I know it was like teenager, but I remember they had like the Aliens toys, like from the movie Aliens.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking like, wait a minute, you're going to get your 8-year-old? They can't see the movie. It's an R-rated movie.
Well, actually, you know what? The original
and
Alien
Predator
film.
Too. Predator had toys too. Yeah.
The original Alien film, they did release like so they called the alien in the original movie the Big Chap.
Oh, they called him the Big Chap?
Yeah, they called him the Big Chap. Well, they filmed it in England, right? Okay. At Pinewood Studios.
Oh, sure. Same place Star Wars was filmed.
Right. Yes. So, yeah. So, anyway. So they actually released a figure after the original Alien movie, which is a straight up horror movie.
Hard
right?
R movie too.
It's man. Well, I mean, not like hard R. I mean, there's some like
for its time. I mean,
there's some like naked pinup girls in one of the guys' locker, but there's no overt sexual.
No, but for like violence and
there's
gore.
Sexual undertones. I mean, it's a movie about space rape.
Yeah. Well, it's violence and like
it's dudes getting space raped in the mouth.
Yes. You know,
that's what it is.
It's so wrong. That should only happen in like a truck stop.
There's a lot of like so that's one of the great. That's why the movie resonates so much.
Yes, that's the main reason.
Well, it is because it's our basest. It's subconscious. It approaches the basest levels of our subconscious. And the most natural thing for humans to do is get it on.
I get you. That's true.
Right. So, that's why
according to my pastor, the most natural thing is to get it off.
Dude, don't even get me started. We'll lose our listenership if I keep. So anyway, so the $10,000. So one of the biggest problems people have in learning guitar is making the jump from reading diagrams. When they think on their guitar, thinking, okay, I better put my finger on this string and this fret, to okay, I need to play. So I need to play D, and I'm in the key of D minor, so I'm gonna play D, E, F, right, and play a phrase. Right?
Usually, I try and explain to people like no one says go to 5. No one says
nobody.
They will say you're going to go A minor then F. That's what they're going to say. So you need to know your notes. And I start them literally lesson 1, day 1. We start talking about notes.
Yeah, I do. It's actually lesson 2, day 2. But yeah,
I did it before you.
There you go. That's fine. I know. Yep.
But I don't give them a choice. And I think my impression is like if you just start them there, then they don't see that as unusual because that's their ground zero. That's of course you're thinking notes from day 1. That's the way you do it rather than that. And then they probably have they probably tool around YouTube a little bit. They probably have looked at their friend's guitar magazine or whatever and saw something but that's not
YouTube. A lot of the instructional videos that are on YouTube are just very, very elementary.
They have to be because you're talking to anybody who has any level of skill. You know what I mean?
Right. So it's not so knowledge of notes and relationships and stuff.
Yeah,
if you're watching Marty Music, then it's not going to help you any.
If you talk to someone, or if someone like say Marty Friedman is talking, they'll be talking about things like I'm in Phrygian or something like that. They'll say something more advanced than that.
Then he'll immediately play out of Phrygian because he's Marty Friedman.
Yeah, and he'll have the most bizarre,
which is great.
It's the most bizarre picking technique I've ever seen in my life.
I love it. Marty's awesome.
But the point I'm trying to make though is that you've got to sort of start, and to me, I think the key is build it from square one. You have to start from here, then learn this. That's the problem with learning guitar on your own is you have to have a certain order that you learn things in. You can't just learn this and then whatever you want. It's just like learning math that way. You can't I don't know how to add, but let me do calculus. You know what I mean? You have to okay, I can add.
This is much cooler than math, though.
But it's similar in the sense that you have to have complementary skills that build up and complement each other. You have to learn these things before you learn these things, and you have to learn these things before you learn these things. You have to sort of approach it in a certain way because then it makes sense when you get to the more advanced stuff. You have all that background, that foundation.
Now, I do think after a certain foundation is laid, you can choose to go one direction or another, right? So you can, after you learn all your open chords and bar chords and stuff, Well, you could continue learning some chord theory, or maybe we'll learn the pentatonic scale. Either direction's
fine.
The
way that I typically will approach it is I'll teach them all the rhythm. I'm just thinking if this guy's going to play in my band, what do I need him to know? Now, I need you to understand chords and rhythms first. So I say this is 8th notes, this is 16th note, this is what syncopation is, that kind of thing. Let's start there. Then understand your notes of the neck. We'll have to use movable shapes like major and minor chords, power chords. Understand when I say C sharp 5, what that means.
Yeah,
that kind of thing. And I teach them that first.
Dominant chords.
Yeah, and then I'll basically all the bar chords, open chords, power chords, and then we'll talk about rhythm very intently. And I usually go through like strumming rhythms, like kind of pop acoustic kind of rhythms, and then I'll go into like rock rhythms and arpeggiated chords, funk and R&B rhythms, blues, shuffles, that kind of thing. I'll kind of go through like almost like a crash course in everything that you would do rhythmically. And then from there, we get into some songs, because I really believe that when someone starts, they need to have sort of a vocabulary of so many pieces of music they know how to play.
Sure.
Because otherwise they're going to feel like I don't know how to play anything. And when their friend Jimmy Joe comes over or Grandpa comes over, they're not
Jimmy John, the sandwich purveyor.
Jimmy's John's, but no, but they're not going to say like, "Hey, can you play me a C sharp dominant chord on the A string?" They're not going to, they're not going to say that. They're going to say, "Hey, what songs do you know how to play?" So I want them to have a good answer for that. Like, I got these. I'll usually go through 10 songs, and I chose those songs stylistically because they're appropriate to or at least in the ballpark of what the student's most interested in. I give each student like 10 choices. You can have these 10 different genres. And then we're going to learn these 10 songs in that genre that's most closely associated to what you're into. So It's not perfect because some students don't like music at all.
Yeah, so you know what? So I'm glad you mentioned that, because I've found that over time to get kind of tougher.
Hey, you cunt.
Whoa, nice.
Slap. You worthless piece of shit.
That's exactly what everyone says.
Right
yes.
there, like lesson 3. Yeah.
Well, I guess. Dude.
Is that what you mean by getting tougher? Is that what we're talking about?
Of course, I try to teach everyone the Ballad of Louis Shortstud as soon as possible,
you're like
right?
wrapping a chain around your fist as you're trying to explain. Sometimes you have to learn lessons the hard way, and sometimes there's only one way to learn things.
Yeah. So certainly with most, not all young students, but I mean the music that they're listening to is just like subgenres upon
when we talk
subgenres.
about young students, we're talking about like under 10, we're talking about under 20.
No. I usually don't take students until they're like 10 or 11.
Okay, so like young would be like, what would typically like
teenagers. Let's just say teenagers as a cohort.
Okay.
The music that they're like actually passionate about it's just such small subgenres of small subgenres. We've talked about that a
Sometimes
lot on our podcast.
Sometimes not even really songs. It's just like one little riff that kind of repeats over and over again.
So I think there's definitely some risk when it comes to teaching songs. I think there's some risk in you want your students to have a personal connection with something. I even adult students, right? Like I try to teach. Country Roads Take Me Home to almost everybody who will accept it, right? But I mean, I've had adults say, like, I hate that song.
It's like,
I want to learn this. Okay, then we'll learn this other thing.
You know what I was going to say is like the reason I'm asking you to learn these songs is not because they're the greatest songs that have ever been in the history of ever. It's just that you need to understand how songs work, and you need to take the tools we spent the last 3 months building and understand how to apply them to something and how to approach learning the song. That's why we're doing these songs. It's not because these are the greatest songs ever.
No, I pitch it that way as well, with perhaps different verbiage, but
and then I'll just say,
so
stop whining, you bitch. We're going to do this right now.
I was going to say, dude, there is a certain number. There's a certain group of people that will just shut down.
Yeah.
If you try to force it, like some people just don't buy it, right? It's just like some people are just recreational. You know what I mean? You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, but dude, like learning Highway to Hell by AC/DC is not a game. It's not going to deal breaker. It's like, dude, it's fucking Highway to Hell. Everybody's heard this a million times.
Yeah,
this is a classic song, and I lean much more towards classic songs in all the genres. And I always tell them like, here's why. Do you remember this band? I'll say something like Maroon 5. They go, no, I've never heard of them. Okay, how about have you ever heard of Demi Lovato? No, okay. See, that's the problem with new stuff because it happens for like 5 seconds and then it's gone.
Oh, well, I mean, classic.
But you're going to always know the Eagles. You're always going to know AC/DC. You're always going to know Leonard Skinner. You're going to.
That's what classic is.
That's why I teach that because everybody, I don't care who you are, has heard those songs. You know what I mean? And people will sometimes bitch about the Taylor Swift songs I teach, and it's like, dude, everybody knows Taylor Swift. That's why we're learning this.
Dude, learn Country Roads Take Me Home. It's a 1-5-6-4 chord progression.
As is every other.
You'll know every Taylor Swift song if you learn that one John Denver song.
So that's the point I make to them. It's like that doesn't matter. That this is not not the reason. These songs aren't the reason we're doing this. This is that we're just using this song as an avatar to get these other ideas across.
You're using it as like a giant blue alien.
Exactly right, or like a water bender.
A giant blue family-friendly alien.
The point,
alien.
But I remember thinking when I was a kid, like if I had to learn a bunch of AC/DC and Ozzy, Metallica, and Sabbath songs, I'd be like, "This is fucking awesome! This is great! What a great way to learn how to play guitar!"
Oh well, I mean, dude, I went to Black Sabbath school when I was a kid.
But
man.
you know what I mean? Like
great.
I would have been bitching and moaning about learning these classic songs. I'd be like, "This is cool."
But when I was a kid, I actively listened to all those bands. Like that was what I was into.
Everybody, even today, has heard all those songs. Like who hasn't heard Back in Black? Who hasn't heard Miss Iron Man? Who hasn't heard? You know, what I mean,
a lot of teenagers haven't, or don't know that they have.
No, they
which
totally,
is still,
they totally have.
I'm so happy to introduce it to
They
them.
totally have, because as soon as I play, like, when I hear the most, I've never heard that song, is "Smoke on the Water" by Deep Purple.
Ooh, that's
like,
bad.
I'm
Yeah,
like, you've never heard that song? Okay, and I start playing, like, oh yeah, I know that song. I go, yeah, you've heard it. I told you you've heard it. You know what I mean? It's impossible that you haven't heard it.
dude. I actually had a student. Actually, this has happened on more than one occasion. Man, I got to plug in my guitar for this one.
Okay,
this is gonna take a moment.
I'll try and vamp.
Dude, one of my favorites is when people get taught "Smoke on the Water" wrong.
That's the most common way it's taught. Also, you notice that no one ever teaches the verse or chorus in that song. They only teach the main riff, which is like super annoying. It's like, and then the main riff wrong. They go, yeah, I know that song, and they play it in E, and it's like on the E string with either a single note or with the power chords on the E string, and it's like, okay, that may be the right chord progression, but that is not how they play "Smoke on the Water." I know, it's crazy.
Okay, so my favorite. So "Smoke on the Water," folks, is supposed to go like this.
Yep.
Right, that's like your most fundamental "Smoke on the Water." Okay?
But that's how the Deep Purple plays it. So
yeah. So I had an adult student start a while back who was buying, and I'm going to make air quotes, lessons, quote unquote lessons.
Okay.
From an establishment whose name rhymes with "pool of schlock."
Fair enough. Yep.
Yes, and his "Smoke on the Water" went like this.
Yep, that sounds about right.
Does everyone hear what's wrong with that?
So many things wrong with that,
So many things wrong with that.
Yeah.
So they got the intervals wrong. That would be like taking "Crazy Train," right? And putting it in like a major key, right?
Yeah. Well, this is the thing that people are up against, though, when they're starting lessons, is they don't know the difference. You know what I mean? They're kind of at the mercy of whoever they're talking to.
Well, and furthermore, it means that the kid who was the teacher, who's earning just like a hair over minimum wage.
Like, I wonder why they did that. Why they hire teachers who don't know what they're doing.
Working part-time hours for like a hair over minimum wage. I mean, look, even if I were a kid working part-time hours for minimum wage, I know you know how to play "Smoke on the Water," and you could hear playing it the wrong way and know it's wrong. I'm not even criticizing turning it into like a single string riff or any of that. I
actually am, because that's not that hard to play chords,
dude. It's not when it's just like two strings on the same fret.
Exactly.
Right? It doesn't even require multiple fingers.
The thing I always find when I'm teaching that riff too is I have to explain to people why it's important to use separate fingers for when you go to the third fret, fifth fret.
Sure.
Don't just use the first finger, or don't just use two fingers and then just move it around. Like
economy of motion.
Exactly. Efficiency. You want to be efficient in your motions. You never want to move any more than you absolutely have to. And I don't know why that is something that people fight me on, but man, it drives me nuts. Like, you got to just don't move your hands if you don't have to.
Right.
We're trying to make it easier.
Just say, you know what? It's hard to be lazy if you're making more work for yourself.
Exactly. It's really ridiculous. Like, don't move any more than you absolutely have to is the mantra. That is what we must do. You know
in every other aspect of your life, teenager,
exactly.
You use this principle.
Bring that into the
bring your aloof attitude towards life into this one moment.
I think that those two things are rubbing up because they've got some kinetic friction against the
There's some cognitive dissonance with.
You know, another thing I actually have to explain to people a lot of times too, and this is something that happens all the time. By the way, just my original point was, like, stop bitching about "Smoke on the Water." It's a great riff.
Oh, it's a great riff.
100 years from now, people will still know what "Smoke on the Water" is, but no one's gonna know your YouTuber weird guy Jimmy Joe John.
No one's gonna know
YouTube channel riff that you think is so great.
Yeah, no one's
gonna
going to
give
know
a shit
yeah.
5 minutes from now. You know
Dude,
what I mean?
nobody's going to know who Alex G was or Charlie XCX.
All these people. I think you're just making those up right now. I don't even think those are.
I'm just saying first names with random letters.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But by the way, you would never know the
Like,
difference. And honestly, in like 5 minutes, no one's going to care either.
Dude,
so.
have you seen Billy LMNOP? Oh my God.
He's got the most amazing channel, dude.
It's the best.
But no, it's like I think
It's like lo-fi acoustic punk folk.
this is the reason though I will teach songs like that, because like these are classic songs. They're not going anywhere. You know, they're going to work on the tools I need you to know, and it's better than me just saying here's exercise 4 and not naming it. So it's meant to learn the whole song, and then you have the whole song. And if you're going to play with a band, which you won't, but if you wanted to go play with the band, you can play the whole song. You know, the verse, the chorus, the bridge. You know, the outro. You know, all the stuff that you need to know.
Dude, did I tell you that I was in Rayleigh's the other day, like in the canned meats aisle?
Okay.
And you know, I was looking for a can of chili, which, by the way, the chili selection is not what it used to be.
Wow, you're going for chili in July. That's pretty amazing.
Dude, it's in a can. It's going to last forever.
So you're planning like your November meals now?
I'm just I'm planning for, like, I only have a half hour to get home for lunch and back to work, so I need to throw something in the microwave for like 3 minutes.
So you just put the can in the microwave?
Yes, and then the sparks fly and it's entertaining. Well, you know, we just recently had the 4th of July,
Yes,
so
exactly.
I just threw a bunch of cans
how
of
you
chili
know
in the throw some metal in the microwave, and
Good
then you
times
save
are had
money
by
at the
all.
fireworks booth. Yeah,
Perfect. Costs you the microwave though. That's the one downside. Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah, but-
So they started playing Metallica, and it was like off of Kill 'Em All too. It
What?
was-
It's like Whiplash or something like that?
I think it was.
Wow.
Yeah, it was
In a
like
freaking grocery store?
right at Rayleigh's, and I
so
just
good.
thought, fuck, I am almost dead.
We have crossed some kind of Rubicon.
yeah, we have
My
crossed
God.
the Rubicon, man.
You know, this Metallica Whiplash would be perfect for people, like elderly people trying to buy, you know, flowers in the floral section. You know, it's
yeah,
like
dude, absolutely, man.
Four
Like,
Horsemen. Like, is that the Four Horsemen?
Dude, pretty soon you'll be like at Kaiser in like your doctor's waiting room, and you'll hear like Hangar 18 by Megadeth while you're
Dead
waiting.
Skin Mask by Slayer. or
Yeah,
something like that.
right. You're at the dermatologist, and they
No,
play
waiting
Dead
at
Skin
the
Mask.
dentist office and stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, it's perfect. This is Ultra Sacrifice by Slayer. He's like, what? Oh,
Dude,
good. I guess
that's
it's fine. I'm
fucking
going to go
great.
into the dentist now. This is great.
Dude, Dead Skin Mask at the dermatologist's office.
That would be
would
perfect. Yeah. Although, you know what's
man.
funny? Hook and mouth if you go to the dentist.
Yeah. Oh, dude, totally. Or Under the Blade by Twisted Sister.
Exactly, for anything.
For anything.
Yeah, for basically anything. You know what's funny though?
Oh man.
One thing
Pull the
that's,
plug by Death.
Exactly.
Yes.
Oh my god, perfect. You know, individual thought patterns would be kind of cool. I mean, if you're going like the psychologist, it'd be great. You know?
Oh, dude, imagine, imagine like, imagine Cannibal Corpse at the proctologist.
No, into the pit, dude. Perfect.
Yeah, hell yeah. Oh my God, that would be great.
So- exactly.
And just hear the rubber glove snap, snap.
I like the live version with Chuck Billy going, "This is into the pit." Right as the glove goes in, you know, it's like,
Dude, I was thinking like Into the Pit by Fight. There's more than one. You can just have those two songs just
I was thinking
cycle.
Testament into the pit.
Yeah, there you go. Nice.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, but anyway,
Damn, I kind of wish I were a doctor now.
yeah, that's true. Wow, and there's
Ah.
many reasons.
Well, you know, I've made suggestions like this to my buddy who's a pediatric dentist.
Yeah. I mean, I think
Right?
it all makes sense.
Like
you know what I
play
mean?
some Slayer while the kids are there to get their teeth drilled,
Right.
and
Just makes them calm down. Makes them
yeah,
feel good,
you
know?
play like in a violent nature on the TV
Exactly,
screens
while
you're
Slayer's playing.
Like what dude while running the drill.
Maybe you can sync it up like the Pink Floyd songs. You know what I mean? Sync it up like the Wizard of Oz.
Like a laser show. yeah, dude, that would be the
Perfect.
best.
Yeah. Anyway, one other thing that's a challenge I run across a lot, I'm not sure if you get this too, is trying to explain to somebody who's learning something that they're struggling with. Naturally, of course, you're struggling with something.
Which
new,
is okay.
But I always try and explain to them, this isn't hard. You're just not used to it. And there's a difference between those two things. Like, once you get used to this, it won't be hard. You know what
Right.
I mean, it's like throwing a baseball is hard if you've never done it. You know, riding a skateboard is hard if you've never done it. You know what I mean? It's one of those things that you have to distinguish between this is hard. Like, if I'm playing an 8-octave sweep arpeggio or 8 separate octave sweep arpeggio across the neck at 100 beats per minute in 30-second notes, it's hard just to be able anybody to do that, right?
Yeah.
But playing an E string root major bar chord is not impossible to do. It's something that's hard, but you'll get used to it.
Yep.
And that's something I think that is a distinction that has to be made, because I hear people say all the time, "This is so hard. This is so hard." It's like, well, it's not hard. You're just not used to it. You know, but
Yep, agreed.
muting the strings when I pick is so hard. I'm like, well, it's not hard. You're just not used to it.
And you know, certain things like that will, you know, you just have to pick it up when you get. So, you know, I've had students where I've just told them like, look, you know, the song that we're trying to learn, just just put it on YouTube and then pick up your guitar in the morning and just hang out with your guitar.
Yeah.
Like we've already talked about how to play the song. Like I know you know how to play the chords.
Yep.
You just need to take the step of picking up your guitar. After that, like maybe the hardest part is just sitting down with it. Just sit down, pick it up, and you'll be curious about it, and you'll make some. And then what we talked about at our lesson will come flooding back.
That's kind of a low bar in a way, though. Just pick up your guitar. The way I look at it,
that's what I'm talking about. The low bar.
To have success, you have to have a combination of focused and unfocused playing. So focused playing, when you're sitting down working on tools, like I'm trying to master my E and A string root bar chords in my notes. I'm trying to get comfortable with major and minor key centers.
Yeah,
I'm trying to work on
yep.
pentatonic, sequencing and muting, that kind of thing. You have to have time where you're focusing on just those mechanical tools, and then you have to have time where you're just exploring and experimenting, like you're just saying, just hanging out with your guitar.
Can a BC Rich with a drill headstock be one of those mechanical tools?
I guess so. Yeah. I'm not sure that's going to help you with the understanding the minor pentatonic group of four sequence. I'm just
adding to the fun factor. That's all. Yeah.
Yeah, but you have to kind of realize there's just two different things that are trying to accomplish two different things. When you sit down and you're working on technical facility, you're working on notes of the neck, working on understanding keys and chords and rhythms. You're doing that specifically to develop your abilities.
Yeah.
But when you're just jamming out, you're trying to just work on the sort of joy factor of playing guitar, and I think you need to do both. You can't only do one of the. If you just do the joy factor, just exploring and not ever have any kind of focus practicing, you're never going to make any progress.
Yes.
If you just do only focus practicing and never just enjoy and explore, then you're going to hate playing guitar. It's going to feel like doing homework.
Yeah. So then let me frame it differently then. For anyone out there who is in a rut where they're only playing at their lesson.
No, they're in a rut because they run across a guy with a BC Rich with a drill in it. Is that why they're in a rut?
Well, they'd be inspired if that happened. That would be a bloody good time. So if you find yourself in a rut where you're only playing when you're at your lesson, then just pick it up while you're listening to a song you like, preferably one you've talked about with your teacher.
Yep.
Like you just have to pick it up that one time to break the rut.
Yeah. Or, what I would say is keep it, and that's true, that's great advice. Another thing that's really good advice too is keep your guitar and your guitar rig ready to go. Like don't have your amp in the closet and your guitar in the case under the bed, that kind of thing. Like have it plugged in so you can just click the switch button and go. You don't have to do anything, it's just right there.
Yep.
The more barriers you have between you and playing, the more likely you're going to find reasons not to play.
Dude, I gave my student a music stand 2 weeks ago.
That's very kind of you, Ryan. Good job.
Well,
man.
Dude, my job's to remove barriers, man. If there's something getting in the way
Wait,
between...
Skip's making you do barrier removal now? Come on, man. What the hell?
Yeah, right.
Right, Ryan, I need you to go move those K-rails in the back for us. Like, wait, I just teach guitar here.
I need you to weld out those bollards in front of the store and replace them, yeah.
This deal's getting worse by the day.
I think everybody knows me better than I've done a lot of backbreaking physical labor for Skips over the years, so I've paid my dues. It's time for the younger generation. Just remember, always bend at the waist, lift with the lower back.
Yes, exactly. You should always put all the pressure on your lower back.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the advice.
Use those lumbar muscles, folks.
And just jerking motions too. Like
yes, right. Quick jerking motions.
All on the low back. That's what you should be doing.
Yes.
Make sure you're not wearing closed-toed shoes. You should always wear flip-flops because they're the best. They're the best for that.
Well, because your feet need to breathe.
Exactly.
When lifting heavy and possibly sharp objects.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
So I think this is good advice for everybody. You know what I mean?
Yes, when you're transporting that pallet of drill guitars.
Now let me ask you a question, because this is something I don't think we talked about in the podcast before, which is I remember when I first started teaching, because I was very young. I was like 20 when I first started teaching. I was like just fresh out of music school. At that point I'd been playing guitar about 10 years. It was my whole life. I was super. I mean, that was during my I'm practicing 14 hours a day period.
Yeah,
and I remember
that's great, man. That's how we met.
Yeah, but exactly that time. I went back from Los Angeles, so when we first met. Yep. But anyway, I remember really struggling with having students who weren't passionate about playing. It was very difficult to get my head around that for a long time. Like, how could you not want to be the greatest guitarist ever?
Yeah, and I think that's the flip side of having students that only play when they're at their lesson. Because I think the instinct of the teacher is to go, well, shit, am I a bad teacher? I'm not inspiring this person.
Well, that is actually a good thing, because you really, at the end of the day, if the student is failing, that's ultimately a failure of the instructor. You know what I mean? I think no matter what, you can't give that person passion, but it's your job to figure out a way to find a way to make it passionate for them, find a way to make them learn. And
sure, but I mean, nobody.
The student is never the one who fails. It's always the teacher who fails.
I'm going to push back on that because some people just aren't meant to be guitar players.
No, I agree with that. But if it fails, it's ultimately something where the teacher just hadn't found a way to connect with that person. You know what
Maybe
I mean?
there is no way to connect with that person.
It's possible, but I would never be the one to throw up my hands and say, I guess there's just no way. There's always got to be a way.
So I respectfully disagree.
Okay.
Well,
you respectfully disagree.
Yes, of course.
Usually it says F-bombs and
I love you,
stuff.
man.
That's
Yeah, dude, it's totally, we may be the devil and angel on the shoulder of the listener, but
you're actually a much kinder, much more soft person than you give yourself credit for.
Well, thank you. And so was Satan. You know what I mean? Like, he got a
so
bad rap. Yeah, totally. So I had a student once. They were a teenager. And
wow, did they beat the drill, the BC Rich drill? Because
totally.
they were a teenager.
And look, I did everything. And this was even, like a referral among people. There was every reason why this person should have been successful, and we should have been successful. And every week they show up at their lesson, and I always ask, "What's going on? How was your week? What
invest
are you up to?"
in them a little bit, right? Yeah.
I invest in all my students. Like that's the only. If you don't have, you have to have that relationship. I think.
Yeah. And you have to ultimately have what's best for your student at heart, which we're trying to accomplish. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I stopped trying to convince my students to murder with drill guitars.
After the 7th or 8th, you said, "Sure, that sounds good."
Yeah, the first 10 years, I'd have them, buy my groceries, and it was all just I thought I would just have like an empire.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
That's all it takes.
So every week was I didn't have a chance to play or practice, and this is over
familiar.
This is right. And what else have you been up to? Oh, I drew all these different things, and I'm enrolled in this art competition, and I just got a new pencil set, and so I'm doing sketches of these original characters, and like in great detail, all about visual arts.
Oh, cool.
And it eventually just led to my telling this person, like, hey, look, not everyone's a guitar player, and that's okay. It sounds like you're really fired up about visual arts. You should pursue that. You should take the time that we're spending here, and you should spend it on that.
That's a very, very kind thing to say. You know what I mean?
Well, it was the truth. It was what was best for them, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that.
And so in that moment, I think I succeeded as a teacher and a human being.
As a human being, for sure, absolutely, no doubt.
Right, but no guitar teacher on planet Earth would have been successful with that person because they just didn't care about guitar.
Yeah, I mean, it begs the question: why are you there then? Why?
Well, and that was the conversation. Why are you
financial?
Right.
I mean, there's no reason to do it then. You know what I mean?
And that is exactly where. But the way it was framed was, here's what you are passionate about. Yeah. You should invest all your time in that.
Depends on the student. I mean, I know that sometimes I always describe it as it's a matter of organization. You know what I mean? It's not that you have to choose art or playing guitar. You can do both, but you have to be organized in how you approach it. You can't just like randomly do whatever. You have to say, okay, I'm going to do this time for this time for that. Both. And if you don't ultimately decide that you can get that time towards the guitar, then it's ultimately the student's job to fail. But as a teacher, your job is to keep trying to find ways to reach that person, change your approach.
Absolutely.
Try and figure out a way to make it kind of connect. And then, ultimately,
well, no doubt, of course. I mean, that's happened. That conversation has happened. Like a version of that conversation has happened maybe between 2 and 4 times over the last 13 or 14 years.
Usually
it's very rare.
Usually the students don't know to pull the plug. And it's like, I'm not into playing guitar.
Right.
But I remember being so hardcore when I was young as a teacher, because I was coming in from music school and
you were coming in hot.
Everyone there is like super hardcore, and it was super competitive, and everyone's trying to one up each other, and all they're competing with the teachers, and it was like everyone was trying to reach the highest level they possibly could. I remember this class we had called Applied Rock Improv, where we'd sit in a classroom-sized room in a big circle, and you go around in a circle, and everyone would take turns jamming over a backing track that was looping, and you would be like 30 guitar players, and everyone would take 16, 24 bars, and it was uber competitive. Everyone was trying to one up each other all the time, that kind of thing. It was like this, sort of like a throwdown every single time. And I came from that environment where everyone was trying to push their limits to the furthest and be the most extreme player they could.
So what was it like when somebody in that circle just totally fucking bit it?
Well,
how often did that happen?
Everyone was supportive, but everyone had different levels of ability. So you kind of know, okay, this guy's going to be limited to this, but he would still do their best, and it would still be fine.
But I mean, did anybody ever just totally bite it?
Sometimes. But it was you kind of expected because you knew that person's playing and that was going to happen. But everyone was trying. You know what I mean?
All the people who just totally just bit the dust, everyone was expecting them to bite the dust.
Okay, let's go to the next. Because then also the next person's solo starts right after that, so there's not any time to sit and wallow.
And then later on, you set their underpants on fire, and then.
But coming from the spot where it's
raided their frat house.
The idea though, everybody there is super fired up about being the best guitar player they possibly could be.
Yes.
To a place where I think I just want you to learn these 3 or 4 open chords. Man, that's a lot of work. That was very jarring for me when I first what are you talking about, dude?
Yeah.
You can't practice. Do you have any idea how much time I practice every single day? I was like,
which is tough because
like
that kind of thing, I don't ever remember being a lot of work.
I never was. No one had to put a gun to my head to make me practice for 14 hours a day. You know,
I mean, there are some things that I know that were a lot of work, but like learning my open G chord wasn't one of them.
Well, I mean, it's super exciting. There's like nothing about you have to drag me to it. Like, dude, that's more. Like, when my maw's wide open, feed me more. You know, I wanted as much as possible.
Your mind was like the Sarlacc pit of guitar knowledge.
Pulling things in every which way. You know what I mean?
And then later Boba Fett crawled out and had a horrible TV series. Thanks for listening to Rock Guitar Confidential with Scott and Ryan. Please make sure to rate, review, and subscribe. Now back to the show.
But the point I'm trying to make, though, is that, you know, it was hard for me to get my head around when you're so passionate about something. And then to see other people who just couldn't give two shits less about it, it's a weird cognitive dissonance. Like, you're trying to
no, I agree.
Get your head around it. It's like, wait, what? You don't care about this at all? You know,
yeah, it's the kid who wants to, have the girl hear him play the Green Day song at the party. Yeah, I get that.
That's partially because I started teaching in the late '90s too. So there was no place you could look that had a great guitar playing. You know,
so that's tough. So that you got it. So like early in your teaching practice, like you arrived just in time for. No,
I think Korn. I think Korn and Limp Bizkit. It was Korn and Limp Bizkit was big.
Oh,
I remember
how about Taint from Bakersfield?
Maroon 5, Disturbed. I remember teaching the Sickness a bunch around that time. You know what I mean? It was like that. You know, that was like the new metal thing
Down
was
with
big.
The Sickness.
Creed was big for a minute.
Oh, fuck.
And then a lot of like Maroon 5, Goo Goo Dolls, Collective Soul, that kind of stuff. We're talking about like late 90s, like 98, 99, 2000, that kind of thing.
I need some antacid.
I will never forget in like 2001, I had a student tell me about hey man, have you heard this band Children of Bodom?
That was a ray of hope.
And I was like, what is this? I'm like, holy shit. Then I found out about Killswitch Engage and Trivium and Lamb of God. And I'm like, oh my God, where are all these bands coming from? It's like...
There was definitely a renaissance.
That's when the new wave of American heavy metal started happening.
Yeah.
And Trivium and Killswitch Engage and Shadows Fall and all these bands were
Avenged Sevenfold.
Shredding. And I was like, dude, this is fucking on. And then I found out about Nevermore around that time. And I was like, oh, dude, this is awesome. Like, it wasn't until like the early 2000s that started becoming a thing. But it's tough. If you look at the...
I think 05, 06 was a definite turning point.
Well, 2001, 2002 is the first I had ever heard of those bands.
Yeah,
and by 2004, 2005, a lot of people knew about those bands.
Right. So 2004, 2000, let's say 2005, things started to,
Yeah, but by then, what was shocking to me, though, is how nichey that metal had gotten. Metal had gotten to the point where it was so nichey that only like maybe a small sliver of my students have ever heard. Even those bands were relatively successful, only a small sliver of all my students had ever heard of those bands. You know what I mean? So the vast majority were into like the pop of the day, whatever the pop music of that day was. You know, so I'm talking about like probably Avril Lavigne, John Mayer, that kind of stuff.
Oh God, I had to listen to a song with
Michelle Branch.
What was
Goo Goo Dolls was an interview band that time period. Dave Matthews Band.
Yeah, there's some new. It's like new country kind of thing. It's I forget the dude's name, like Yokel McYokelson, like.
That's the family McYokelsons.
Right, and Avril Lavigne. It's like a duet.
Oh, well, Avril Lavigne's pretty good. I mean, she's got the typical,
I'm not an Avril Lavigne hater. I mean, she used to, like...
She was with the skater boy.
She used to get it with the guy in Nickelback, so, like, her taste is suspect, but...
Nickelback, as we talked about, that's a band that's taken a lot more shit than they probably have going their way.
I guess there's a documentary about Nickelback on Netflix. I would totally watch it if I could stand listening to Nickelback.
Look at this.
But I'm not interested in the self-abuse.
It's just like, hey, look at this photograph.
Oh, dude. I'd rather have.
Don't we all want to be big rock stars?
I'd rather have Joe Elliott sing to me about a photograph.
Damn right.
Fuck yeah, dude.
You know what's so funny? On that side, because you brought that up. I had like a weird experience a while back. I remember I was talking to someone and they asked me like what my favorite song of all time was, and I said, oh, definitely "Photograph" by Def Leppard. And they looked at me like I was some kind of like alien. It was weird. I'm like, is that not a really popular song? It was almost like they were expecting me to go some off the radar thing. Like, I really into like early, I don't know, Lou Reed or something.
You know what? Like by those standards, I'd say "Rainbow in the Dark" by Dio.
Awesome
I think
song.
it's like the definitive metal song.
Like, whenever I hear "Photograph" from Def Leppard,
It's a great song.
I'm in a good mood because I love that song. That's my favorite song of all time. Van Halen's my favorite band of all time, but my favorite song of all time is "Photographed" by Def Leppard.
Nice,
for sure. But anyway, the
so
person
if
I was
only
talking
they
to
were
looked at me like
Photographed by Van Halen, that would be like the ultimate. Like, dude, you could just call
those
it
two
life.
songs. I tell you, 1984 and Pyromania are like peanut butter and jelly to me. Those are two albums I can listen to back to back.
Two
forever.
great flavors that taste great together.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's
those
for
are
sure.
two of my all-time favorite albums for sure. And
Dude, no
that's a
doubt.
time I remember being a little kid in the pool with my family, playing like volleyball and then sun tanning, riding my bikes. That just brings you back to like being a kid in the summer, like just hanging out, having a great time, swimming at night with the lights on and stuff. It was cool. I mean,
Rainbow in the Dark, reminds me of like being out at the creek like late at night,
poking the dead bodies.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Like poking the dead body in the creek.
Wow,
it's like me and Will Wheaton
I can't
and
tell.
Corey
I think
Feldman
this
found a
guy's
dead body by the railroad
tracks.
tracks.
From a
Yeah.
BC Rich headstock in his head. It's like I think that's what happened there. I can't be sure, but it seems like that's what it is.
Staring across my grandma's front lawn into the graveyard. These are all true things, right? So like, yeah, and then the Southern Baptist preacher telling me how I shouldn't listen to heavy metal and stuff. That like Rainbow in the Dark brings it all back.
That makes sense. I love Rainbow in the Dark too, but it's an awesome song.
Oh, so awesome.
But anyway, the point I'm trying to make though, I remember thinking weird, like, why should I feel like bashful about that? My favorite song. Like, am I supposed to be in some kind of weird indie rock thing or something? Like, should I said Radiohead? Or something? Like, what? I mean, they look at me like I'm some kind of weirdo. Like, what? And I think what it comes down to is that I present myself to people, at least I hope I do, as a relatively educated person. And then when they find out that I'm a hardcore rocker dude in my heart, they kind of look at me like there's this weird, like, what? That's music
like
for
a disconnect.
That's music for idiots. That's not something smart people listen to. That kind of thing. That's kind of, I think.
Well, it depends on what those people are listening to.
Exactly.
Because if they're like listening to Yokel McCountry Fuck.
No, these people
and
listen.
Avril Lavigne,
this is totally the dudes like, dude, I'm really into like, I really love System of the Down and Radiohead, man. That's what I'm really into. And Tool's like my band.
Okay,
that kind of. This is the person we're talking about who's like has all those like the signaling kind of bands about how smart and unique.
I mean, like Tool's the ultimate band for that.
That's what I mean. This is the kind of person. It's not a Mick Yokelson person. It's a person you expect me to pick like some old, like, I really like 70s Lou Reed.
I'd rather listen to System of a Down and Radiohead than Tool.
Me too, but all those bands are in that same sort of world of like, if you're a sophisticated, smart, unique individual, that's what you're supposed to be into.
Here's the thing: is that like there is stuff going on in Radiohead tunes that is very sophisticated. But I bet
those bands
like
are fine.
But it is like the smallest like fraction of Radiohead fans that can even begin to conceptualize what that really is.
And at the end of the day, I'm not even making a comment on the quality of the music. Of those bands.
I know.
It's the kind of person who you usually meet who's into Tool. They would have that.
Yeah, right. Tool's the
Leppard.
band that a lot of people tell you they're fans of, so they can signal that they're smart and deep. Yeah, right. Exactly.
But if you say I love Def Leppard, Pyromania, it's like, wow, it's like that's like the big radio song from like the '80s, dude. I'm like, yeah, it's fucking awesome. It was great.
Yeah, well, the reason it was a big radio song is because standards were much higher.
Yeah, and also it's a great song.
It's well produced.
Things are not really successful because they suck usually.
Well, now they are.
Well, now there's no choice. If you have a menu, there's only 3 things on the menu. Then you just whatever's there. Fine, that's fine.
Yes, if you're looking at the if you're like looking at the menu and it's like Alpo, Dead Mouse,
shit sandwich.
Yeah, Alpo with Wonder Bread, shit sandwich.
Exactly.
That's
all you got. So it's like Although I will say we still have Taylor Swift, and Taylor Swift's music is better than average. You know what I mean? So and that's still really good.
The average being very low.
Yes, but better than that.
And so circling back to Avril, like I'm not an Avril Lavigne hater. She's a talented singer, but this song, like the vocals were auto-tuned so severely, it's unlistenable.
Yeah, I get you.
It is unlistenable.
I get, and that's unfortunate. It shouldn't happen. No,
it shouldn't happen.
Yeah, Avril Lavigne should know better. You know what I mean? I think Chad Kroeger probably taught her better than that. You know what I mean?
Oh, God. I don't think Chad Kroeger taught her anything.
He said, we all want to be big rock stars,
Oh, dude. Bruh.
And taught her all out about that. She's like, but I want to be with a skater boy. And he's like, well, no.
King Diamond, we need you.
Exactly.
What the hell?
The King Diamond signal. No.
Right, yeah, dude, the bat signal. That'd be perfect. To be like the King Diamond signal.
Okay, now the other thing
dude, that'd be great if there were like a big pentagram you could shine in the sky that would summon King Diamond to save the day.
That doesn't make sense. No. Damn it. You can't do anything.
Why? Because Carrie King doesn't believe King Diamond does.
Here's the thing, though. The next thing I want to talk about is we're running low on time. Is that I've been recently just on my YouTube feed. I've seen some live clips of the new Sammy Hagar Best of All Worlds tour. And number one, it's been really cool to hear a lot of those old Sammy era Van Halen songs. It's something I grew up listening to those songs, so it kind of hits that nostalgia to me. And then the other thing that's pretty cool about it too is seeing Joe Satriani playing the Van Halen stuff. It's actually really interesting, and I think his approach, and let's go and get your take on this too, is his approach is really cool. Like, he'll play the rhythm parts pretty much right on the money, who Van Halen does. He'll change out some stuff here and there, like the more, sort of idiosyncratic things. He'll do his own thing with it. But on the solos, he'll kind of start the solo similar to what Van Halen would do, then he'll go do his own thing and then come back and do something that kind of finishes the solo in a way that leads to the next section.
I think that's respectful.
And I dig that, because that tells me I'm not trying to just, because there's a million dudes who are like in cover bands who will play it note for note. He's doing sort of respect, and then but I'm not Eddie, I'm Joe, and then coming back and then anyone's respect, and then playing the songs respectfully. You know what I mean? I think that's the way to go. But I've heard some criticism saying, like, he can't play Van Halen. I'm like, dude,
well, nobody can sound exactly like Eddie Van Halen. Only Eddie Van Halen sound just like Eddie Van Halen.
There are cover dudes who do a good job of trying to.
Of course, there are. But Russ Parrish did a great job.
That's their whole thing.
Parrish.
That's their whole thing, is to make it sound like Van Halen.
Well, Russ went and did Steel Panther.
Well, as far as when he was doing metal school and they were doing Atomic Punks and stuff like that. You know what I mean? But that being said, it's exactly the way Satriani should approach it. I think
I wholeheartedly
play
agree.
The songs and then do your own thing with the part where you have the ability to do your own thing, and that's something that I think holding to the bar of you need to sound like Van Halen. And then there's people who are also taking the approach like, this is so disrespectful without Alex or Eddie. You can't. Go out and play
those are just people who like to complain about shit online. Like, they're the people that want to make it so none of us can have nice things.
Yeah, I mean, I just think like dude, Alex sold all of his equipment. Eddie's dead. So if you're ever going to hear these songs live again, you still have the other half. You have Sammy and Mike who were in the band.
I was going to say, I'm happy for Michael Anthony.
Yeah,
and everybody should go out there and hear him sing those songs, because it's definitely not going to be the same without his backing vocals.
For sure. Well, I mean, it's also a chance to hear that whole era of Van Halen, that 10, 12-year period of Van Halen, where all those great songs they hadn't been heard in 30 years.
Wait,
live.
So these are all the Sammy era songs?
From 5150 through Ballads. You know what I mean?
Cool.
Dude, I love those albums. I grew up on those.
No, I mean, those are great. I still prefer the David Lee Roth era.
Well, I mean, I don't think you have to choose. They're both.
No, that's
great.
Right. No, I know.
We've been hearing nothing but the David Lee Roth era for the last like 10 years.
Right.
Van Halen's been active, so this is a chance to go back and hear like Good Enough, Best of Both Worlds, 5150, Judgment Day.
Yeah, I think it's great. I hope it inspires some kids to pick up guitars.
Some of my favorite Van Halen tunes are Sammy era Van Halen stuff. I really do. I remember playing in a Van Halen cover band for a while. When I was really young, when I first moved back from LA, and I remember learning those Sammy era songs. And
dude, Hot Summer Nights is one of my favorites.
But there's so much more sophisticated songs than if you look at I'm the One. It's cool. It's a great song, but it's not sophisticated. If you look at like Out of Love Again or Dead or Alive, really cool songs, but they're not sophisticated. Running with the Devil, cool song, not sophisticated.
Yeah,
if you get into
I agree.
5150, that's a whole different animal. That's got all kinds of crazy rhythm guitar stuff.
But man,
on.
Like if I'm
AFU Naturally Wired, totally sophisticated stuff.
I wholheartedly agree.
Yeah,
if I'm hanging out though and like partying with my buddies, I want to hear Bottoms Up and Get Me a Doctor.
I get you, but from a guitar perspective, I remember learning those songs, and then the Sammy stuff was always harder than the rock stuff.
Okay, there's no badder guitar riff than Somebody Get Me a Doctor.
That's a great. Well, Mean Street. I would say Mean Street's a badder riff than Somebody Get Me a Doctor.
I love Mean Street too.
Yeah.
I like Get Me a Doctor better. There's an aggression in Somebody Get Me a Doctor.
But so much of this,
but they're all great.
I think so much of the Sammy era stuff is just fabulous, and I think that it seems very lazy to me, the criticism of that, because people are like, well, man, they turned Van Halen into Foreigner. It's like, well, no, the singles are always the ballads, because that's what every record label wants, is the ballad for the single. Look at Whitesnake, look at Def Leppard, look at every band. That's what they wanted, is the ballads.
Dude, you know what? I just pointed at the solo from Is This Love by Whitesnake. Yeah. That is one of the greatest guitar solos of all time.
The solo in When It's Love by Van Halen is fucking awesome. You know what I mean? It's incredible. The solo to Feel So Good is awesome.
You know what? I can't hear those solos in my head right now, but I can hear Is This Love by Whitesnake in my head.
It's a great song. Now. I mean, I love that too. But I mean, the idea that they turned them into a ballad band, like, did you never hear Source of Infection? Did you never hear like Cabo Wabo or AFU Naturally Wired? I mean, did you never hear freaking Summer Nights or Get Up off
Dude,
of
Pound Cake?
Good Enough, Pound Cake, Judgment Day, Spanked, Dream Is Over. Those songs. There's some way amazing guitar going on in that. I think some of his best guitar solos ever are on the For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge album. There's some incredible stuff on that. Listen to the Pleasure Dome solo.
What's the one Van Halen song that you never need to hear again?
Probably Jump, I would say. Yeah.
Dude, I love Jump.
I love Jump too, but I've heard it so many times.
I never need to hear Right Here, Right Now ever again.
I mean, I think that song's got it's. I didn't get enough time with it to be as burned out on it as I'm with Jump.
It's everywhere. It's like in Verizon commercials.
No, I
shit.
get it, but I think
it needs
Jump
to be retired.
I like listen to Jump so much. I like OD'd on it. You know what I mean? To the point where I listen to it so much that I just can't hear it anymore.
I'd be so much more
Although
inspired.
I always love the solo. When the solo comes up, I'm always like, "Hey, on, stop! Everybody, shut up! Listen to the solo."
Oh, so if you listen to the intro, 1984 and the song Jump
together,
yeah, that's the best thing to listen to when you get in your car to go start your day.
I love it. I do love it.
It's the best. If you're a person that goes to the gym or whatever, that's the first thing you should listen to.
1984 as an album is so great, dude. It's just so.
It is so great.
Yeah, it's not just Hot for Teacher and Panama and Jump. That's
but dude, if they played Jump on a Verizon commercial, I'd be inspired to go get a new phone. I'd be like, I'm going to jump up and get a phone.
Ready Player One? You ever seen that movie?
No.
It's the Spielberg movie. It's really cool.
That's the one that's got like the kid with the video games.
Yeah,
on
but
it?
he's like living in this virtual reality, and it's kind of
Does he murder anybody?
He doesn't murder. But
does anyone get murdered?
But dude, I remember seeing this movie in the theater. I didn't know anything about it. The first thing I hear is bum bum bum. Bum, bum. I was like, holy shit, they're starting the movie with Jump from Van Halen.
I mean, that's cool.
It was so cool. I was like,
it's better than the horrible fate that befell Batman.
What fate befell Batman?
The Robert Pattinson Batman, where they just totally rat fucked the soundtrack.
I don't even remember that. What was the soundtrack on? That's the Batman, that movie you were talking about, right?
Yeah, the where they try to make it all like lo-fi Batman, like grudgy Batman, like everything. He's kind of like '90s Batman. Like everything is just less cool.
Yeah, it's
like it can't compete with Christian Bale, Christopher Nolan Batman, where like all the high tech stuff's super slick and high tech and rad and.
Or even the Tim Burton where it's real unique and weird.
Right, crazy like cartoon nightmare Tim Burton Batman. No, this is just, Batman's a guy who owns a motorcycle. It's just a regular motorcycle.
Yeah, kind of sad.
It might be like from Keanu Reeves. I think it's Keanu Reeves' motorcycle company that built it. I think it's a Keanu, but it just looks like it's just a motorcycle. It's got a gas tank and a couple wheels and handlebars.
Totally. But long story short, though.
So they use Something in the Way by Nirvana in the soundtrack. So just when the movie is like getting cool, then you're just like, oh fuck, dude, why are they playing this?
All I remember about that is that Zoe Kravitz is crazy hot. That's the thing.
That's her main job skill.
I know, but I remember thinking like that chick is crazy hot. I'd never heard of her before. I guess it's Lenny Kravitz's daughter or something like that. By the way, did you see that?
Shocking.
You see that Instagram
that his daughter
thing
would be hot.
Lenny Kravitz working out, and he's literally got sunglasses on and leather pants as he's lifting weights.
Okay, so
which is exactly the way I picture Lenny Kravitz works out. He probably wears like a leather suit while he's lifting weights.
So you know what? Like all props to Lenny Kravitz. Like Mama Said was great, dude. Like his first couple.
Are You Gonna Go My Way? It's a good song.
Yeah, his first couple albums were fucking great. Yeah. He never should have covered American Woman. It is so monotonous and awful. Yeah. And for those of you out there, that is one of the first examples. That's a great example of auto-tune making vocals sound thin and garbagey.
Yeah.
Like that's, it's so bad. Like he hasn't had a good song in forever.
Didn't he perform?
He started off so strong
a couple years ago, and he wasn't even like plugged in. He just like showed up on stage with a guitar, and it's like I think it was like Katy Perry was the main performer.
I think Lenny Kravitz is kind of more of a fashion model than a musical artist.
I totally agree.
Anymore.
He's become that's just like the cool looking dude with a guitar.
Like Batman, he's a symbol.
Yeah, that's true. He's become more than the man in our eyes. No, getting back to the Sammy thing though, there's two things I think about. One is I think everyone should be grateful that the dude who's multi-millionaire who doesn't need the money is doing it clearly because he loves the songs and loves performing them.
Yeah, I think it's great.
And that people get a chance to hear those great old Van Halen songs live because they wouldn't hear it any other way, which is great.
And I think Satriani, so Joe Satriani's never been my favorite of the virtuoso, the classic generation of virtuosos. I've seen him live, and
I think he writes great stuff. I think his writing is very strong. You know what
I mean? Seeing him do it live made me a believer. Like I totally get it.
Yep.
I remember being a kid. I got Flying in a Blue Dream, but that's after I had heard Surfing.
I'd probably start with Surfing. I would think, right? I mean,
right. Yeah. But then one Christmas, someone got me Flying in a Blue Dream, and it was just much softer, and it was.
I don't know. Some of it was, but there's some.
It was.
Dude, listen to One Big Rush on that. That's a great album. That's a great tune off that.
Yeah, I just remember feeling childhood disappointment because it wasn't as heavy as I wanted it to be, and it wasn't as. So Joe's a very, very polished player. And just in my
brilliantly
opinion,
melodic and incredibly diverse.
he's
player.
incredible, dude. He's a great player.
Yeah.
But he does like there was a certain kind of off the cuff like excitement with Eddie that if I were Joe, I'd be smart enough to not try to replicate because that's not the kind of player.
Well, he's
Joe
definitely
is.
doing Joe does Van Halen, which is smart. I think
so I'm just totally endorsing his approach.
That's the right approach. That's how you should do it. You know what I mean? And I think that people complaining, it's like, look, dude, it's your chance to hear this great Van Halen music live. Enjoy it. Don't be a bitch. And the other thing I always hear pushback to is like how much people hate the Sammy era. Not to go too down the Sammy era stuff, but I always think like, okay, I could get it if all those songs and all those albums were terrible. But they weren't.
They're not.
They were great.
They just generally don't rock as hard.
But I mean, that's more in our mythology than anything else.
It's a little more.
I don't know that in a simple rhyme like rock that hard. I don't know that Big Bad Will's Sweet William Now rock that hard.
You know what I mean?
Not,
dude. Like it's just not as. It's a little more okay. So it's a little more above the shoulders and not as below the belt.
Yeah, I agree with that. But Eddie has grown as a player, which is something you need to. Like,
no, I agree. It's just I remember being a kid again back then, like just like really wishing David Lee Roth would come back, like through almost all of that period.
I think I really discovered Van Halen heavily. Sammy was already in the band. So that's when I didn't have that nostalgic attachment to Roth, like he's my guy, that kind of thing. I mean, I'd heard it in 1984 and I thought it was cool, but I wasn't that attached because I was too young. So I remember when I discovered Van Halen, Sammy was already the singer of Van Halen.
Here's what it is. Yeah. I know what it is.
What's that?
Okay, so when David Lee Roth was in the band, there was still like an element of danger with Van Halen.
Okay.
Like, you know what I mean? There was still tension in the band. And like,
you could tell they hated each other and stuff. And
like, you knew they hated each other. Like, David might be, like, you never knew what was going to happen when David Lee Roth came on stage.
Yeah, because he's a little bit insane.
It was, right. Yeah, there was that edge, that danger, and that all went away with Sammy.
Well, it was a good time with Sammy. Everyone was getting along. It was good.
And that's not compelling.
I don't know, man. The great songs, though. I mean,
they are great songs. I'm just trying to argue
great
for
songs
why...
played by great players with amazing solos.
Dude, it's like Guns N' Roses, dude. The first album, they're fucking dangerous. The songs on their only good album, Appetite for Destruction.
Yes, and they have a few smatterings after that. There's a few smatterings of good music.
Like only smatterings, man. Like You Could Be Mine.
There's some stuff
okay,
on Lies is okay, and then there's some stuff off of the Spaghetti Incident. There's some stuff off of Use Your Illusion 1 and 2. There's maybe like one other decent album if you cobble the good songs from all those albums.
November Rain's an abortion, dude. It's fuck that song.
But You Could Be Mine is badass though. You know what I mean?
It is, but no other song on that album is badass.
I mean, there's some good songs.
I distinctly Use Your Illusion 1 can just go right in the fucking toilet. Fuck
I agree. I'm amazed.
Awful.
I actually have to tell you, I'm amazed with Guns N' Roses that they are as beloved as they are, considering the dearth of output.
Just that one album. Well, I mean, Appetite for Destruction. Well, first of all,
to be fair, November Rain, as much as you do not like it, was a massive hit, though.
Right, because it's garbage. And people like garbage. Didn't we establish earlier people like shit sandwiches?
Don't Cry.
Yeah, that was awful, too. Fuck.
Is that Aerosmith, or is that...
Dude, okay, what a year, man. I remember, like, dude, as a kid, I can't wait for, the next Guns N' Roses album to come out, because I can't wait for Appetite for Destruction 2. It's going to be great. I remember, like, the parents being upset over the liner notes, like all the song, like every song, like if you look over Sweet Child of Mine, which could be tolerated as a ballad, like, Rocket Queen, you're fucking crazy.
Rocket Queen's awesome.
It's all Mr. Brownstone.
Great
dude,
riff.
Every other song on that album, it rocks. The band feels dangerous.
Yep.
Like you don't know what's going to happen. Like your parents don't want you to listen to it.
Solos too. I think that there's like a really cool vibe to the whole thing.
It was just like making the Rolling Stones like not suck.
Yeah, making them heavier and more dangerous.
Faster rocking. Like the guys were like Fast Lifestyle. It all just seemed. It was exciting and dangerous. Like
any moment it could kind of go off the rails. You kind of
that's right. Yeah, Axl could go fucking bonkers any moment.
Yeah.
It's like that was a true like mega rock band, right? And then meanwhile, it's like, okay, dude, and Justice for All. Cliff died. That last album was so fucking angry, and every song ripped. That even one like was rad. It's not even really a shitty ballad. Like I can't wait for.
Well, the whole second half is heavy and shredded.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. And so, man, I distinctly remember just like I couldn't wait for the next Guns N' Roses and Metallica album to come out. And then
Is that the same year? Use Your Illusion and the Black Album came out the same year?
About, yeah.
I think
they did.
Foreign Knowledge came out that same year too, actually, if I'm not mistaken.
So maybe the disappointment.
And I remember Satriani is the Extremist came out that year too. Yeah.
So I remember being a kid and just the deep disappointment of the garbage Black Album. And then like, oh, here's what we're gonna serve you for Guns N' Roses. And I was like, what the fuck is this?
Don't you cry.
No, God. And like, I remember like trying to I bought both of those albums. I tried.
Yeah, that was a double album, right? I did release them at the same time.
Well, I was talking about Metallica's Black Abomination.
Okay. Was Use Your Illusion 1 and 2, is that released at the same time, or is it?
No, there was a delay.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's like so it was like a double slap in the face.
Okay, and then you wait for the number 2, like, okay, that's where the good stuff is.
So Use Your Illusion 1 comes out and it's all complete garbage. And you know what? I bet if you even like read the record reviews from that time,
sorry, this is garbage.
You'd hear. Well, I remember. Well, so I would buy Metal Edge at Rayleigh's every week.
Yeah, I remember seeing that.
Right, and I remember
and Guitar World too. I remember.
Yeah,
that.
You know the readership of Metal Edge was disappointed. You could read it in the letters to the editors section, right?
Yeah.
So
by the way, there was no internet by then. If you're wondering, like, why did you just, like, there was no internet then.
So there's this double like slap in the dick from the Black Album and Use Your Illusion 1, right? Like, so disappointment reigns.
Okay.
Like, what the fuck is happening to
Disappointment reigns in the hall of the mountain. No, it actually doesn't. That's only awesomeness in there.
That would have been awesome if yeah. So then Terminator 2 comes out.
That's a great movie, dude.
It's not as good as the original.
Well, it's hard making
unpopular opinion, but James Cameron can't just action everything up and then it's better than the original.
Well, James Cameron did the original too. It's not like an Alien situation where Ridley Scott did it and he did the Aliens. You know?
So I think what should have happened was Ridley Scott should have done Terminator 2.
Pretty funny.
And then it could have been more of like a horror film, and that would have been better.
You know, it's funny. Ridley Scott's been doing a lot of interviews because of Gladiator 2: Electric Boogaloo coming out, and apparently he said that the reason he didn't do Aliens is because no one asked him.
That makes sense.
That's weird. I mean, that's weird. I would think that'd be a natural thing to have the guy that did the first one. You know, it's not like Ridley Scott does not do action. Of course, he knows how to do action. So I don't get that. So if you wanted more action-y, Ridley Scott could have done that too.
I'll tell you, the one place where Terminator 2 went wrong is when, and actually Arnold Schwarzenegger took issue with James Cameron on this, but Cameron sold him on it.
This is not right.
You're right. When Edward Furlong tells him, "Look, you can't kill anybody," I'm just like, right. Then he shoots the gate attendant in the leg.
Yeah,
fucking lame, dude. Yeah. The Terminator should have like ripped his spine out or something. It would have been so much better.
He shot him in a spot where he knew he'd bleed out in like 5 minutes.
Yeah, dude, it becomes more compelling then because then little Edward Furlong knows he's responsible for the death of innocents, and then like that makes his character more compelling, even though they're trying to save the future world, but they have to come to grips with the fact that they have to,
there's collateral damage.
They're gonna be inflicted with moral injury on the way. That's already more compelling, folks. That's already more compelling. You're welcome. You heard it here.
Never even thought about it, but okay.
I think about too many things too much, apparently. So there's the complete slap in the dick of the Black Album.
So you're saying that the Terminator 2 is just like the insult to injury, basically, what you're saying?
No, I'm just saying that... I'm saying that Use Your Illusion 1 is the second slap in the dick.
Okay.
But then, like, there's a glimmer of hope. Like, You Could Be Mine came out. Oh, dude, this is rad. There's a video from Terminator 2.
Yeah.
Okay, Terminator, Guns N' Roses is going to not suck. Maybe Use Your Illusion 2 is going to be, like, way better. And then Use Your Illusion 2 comes out and womp womp.
Well, that one song is really good. They didn't fake that.
That's like 1 out of 14 songs on that. That's like 1 out of 30 songs on both albums. This is what I'm saying. Like, why I'm so blown away that Guns N' Roses is still so viable, considering they have wholeheartedly agree.
One great album and like a couple of other good songs.
And then just when you think things couldn't get any worse to 12-year-old me.
Exactly.
And then it's me.
Yeah, then we didn't realize the world was over at that point.
No, I didn't know. But it was
like an elk that got shot by the poison arrow, and we're still thinking we can make it out, but the poison's already taking us down.
We're like the frog we were the frogs getting boiled by the music industry at that point.
We didn't know it was over already. It's like,
dude, it was all just so bad. But that's interesting because it's important to. It was like the grunge apocalypse didn't just like happen right away. Like other popular music started sucking. Before, like Metallica and Guns N' Roses were the canaries in the coal mine.
Yeah, I think that was a real shot across the bow that the 80s are over. You know what I mean? That kind of like 80s sort of exuberance is over. We're not going
Right.
to have that. This is all going to be like dreadful. From
That
this
everything like true and real and good in the world was
Yeah.
about to be smashed.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
On that happy note.
On that note, folks,
that's going to do it for this episode of Rock Guitar
Yes.
Confidential with Ryan and Scott. Please make sure to rate, subscribe, and review this podcast. And if you want to learn more about us, please check out our website at xagesband.com. Ryan, you know what you must do.
That's right. So make sure to, in honor of the 1-year anniversary of our debut release,
At least 7 copies you must download.
yes,
So,
you must. You can also purchase on Bandcamp, but you can also download our album
Yep.
wherever you download music.
Yep. And you
You
can
know.
stream if you absolutely must, but I need
Right.
to know that there's a reason why you do that.
Yeah, you can stream it too because
Yeah.
we need that .000000000.
That and about 10,000 of its little
royalty.
friends will actually pay for a cup of coffee for me.
That's right. So make sure to stream that album, and you can get all of this information at www.exaegisband.com.
Yes, and you can also find links to our social media, so please make sure to follow us on social media to find out all about us and all of our amazing activity that we're doing. And then please make sure to subscribe. I think I mentioned that. Subscribe to this podcast. I think I can't believe
And
that
then
comes-
after you're done subscribing to this podcast, you should subscribe to this podcast
Yes, again, and then tell your friends to all do the same. So
You should buy a bunch of subscriptions
Yeah.
and then go walk around the neighborhood like selling other
yes,
subscriptions
what you
to your
should do
neighbors.
is follow our lead and just like record this and then put it somehow on an audio cassette and then just stash the audio cassettes all over your city, wherever you live.
just to confuse young people because they won't know what the audio cassettes are.
Or even better, put it on a floppy disk and just like hide them in the woods and stuff. You know what I mean? Anyway, enough of our nonsense. Thanks for listening, guys. We'll catch you next time. Thank you.
Peace.